and it's Lewis Hamilton who are eliminated in the second part of qualifying.
Interlagos, Saturday morning. The most successful driver in Formula One history sits in his Ferrari waiting for a lap time that will never come. P11 eliminated in Q2. Again. And then, through the static of team radio, 3 words that sent shockwaves through the paddock.
The yellow flags as well. Yeah, it definitely didn't help, but... Ay.
This wasn't anger. This wasn't frustration. This was something far more dangerous. Resignation. Because in Brazil, Lewis Hamilton didn't just lose a qualifying session, he lost faith in 2 systems that define Formula One. The team he joined to resurrect his legacy, and the governing body that's supposed to protect the sport's integrity. What happens when a 7-time world champion stops believing? When the rules feel rigged and the car won't respond? You're about to witness the unraveling of a dream in real time. Brazilian Grand Prix was supposed to be different. Hamilton had been building momentum. Ferrari promised progress. Interlagos, the track where he won his first championship, where he pulled off miracles, this was sacred ground. But Friday's practice session told a different story. While McLaren and Red Bull gathered crucial data on medium and soft tires, Ferrari made a decision that would haunt them all weekend. Hamilton and Leclerc ran exclusively on hard compounds.
This is Leclerc's lockups. Hamilton does the same thing. So both Ferraris just on the limit of front locking.
No competitive laps, no performance baseline, just conservative caution that left them blind. The result? Hamilton finished practice in 18th position. Leclerc in 19th, more than a second and a half off the pace. The SF25 wasn't just slow, it was lost. Then came sprint qualifying. SQ1 offered a glimmer of hope. Hamilton scraped through in 7th, but the car felt unpredictable beneath him. Every corner required correction. Every braking zone demanded prayer. There was no confidence, no flow, but the real disaster was reserved for SQ2. With seconds remaining on the clock, Hamilton launched his final attempt. This was his only chance to advance to SQ3, to salvage something from a weekend already slipping away. He needed perfection, and that's when his own teammate destroyed everything. Turn 9. Charles Leclerc, locked up under braking, lost control and spun violently, leaving his Ferrari sideways on the racing line. Double yellow flags exploded across the sector. Hamilton, arriving at maximum attack, found the scene unfolding directly in front of him. His qualifying lap instantly neutralized. His chance at Q3 gone in the time it took Leclerc's car to complete a 360-degree spin. But here's what made it devastating. Even without the yellow flags, Hamilton's time wouldn't have been good enough. He would have finished 14th anyway. The SF25 simply didn't have the pace to compete. Ferrari immediately went into damage control mode. They argued bad luck, wrong setup, unfortunate timing, standard excuses for extraordinary failure. Hamilton, sitting in 11th position, pressed his radio button. His engineer confirmed the elimination with apologetic sympathy. And that's when those 3 words came through. Yeah, every time, man. Not a protest. Not a complaint. Just the weary acknowledgement of a pattern he'd seen too many times. Every race weekend, Ferrari stumbled over the same mistakes. Conservative strategies that backfired. Data collection that missed the mark. Internal errors that cascaded into catastrophic results. For a driver who built his legend on precision and control, being trapped in a system that consistently fails is psychological torture. But the nightmare wasn't over yet. Hours after qualifying ended, the FIA summoned Hamilton for a formal investigation. The charge? Failing to slow down sufficiently under double yellow flag conditions. Telemetry showed he'd set a personal best microsector right where Leclerc had spun. This wasn't just about a bad qualifying session anymore. This was about potential grid penalties, super license points, and public scrutiny of his conduct on track. Hamilton had already been penalized earlier in the season at the Dutch GP for an identical infraction. 5 places dropped on the grid, points added to his license. A painful lesson in how narrow the margins had become. Now, in Brazil, that same threat loomed over him again. The FIA investigation dragged on for hours. Multiple camera angles reviewed, GPS data analyzed, telemetry scrutinized down to the millisecond. Ferrari presented their defense. Hamilton had lifted slightly. He'd modified his line. He abandoned the lap attempt. Yes, he'd improved his sector time momentarily, but he'd reacted to the danger appropriately given the circumstances. The stewards faced a dilemma. Technically, the regulations had been breached, but context mattered. Distance from the incident, partial deceleration, immediate lap abortion. These factors complicated what should have been a simple ruling. Finally, the verdict came. No additional penalties. Hamilton was absolved, but with a warning that felt more like a threat. The FIA's leniency wasn't mercy. It was a temporary reprieve. But here's the deeper truth that nobody wanted to say out loud. Hamilton shouldn't have been in that position at all. If Ferrari had prepared properly on Friday, he wouldn't have been fighting for survival in SQ2. If the team had coordinated their driver's track position better, Leclerc's mistake wouldn't have destroyed Hamilton's lap. If the SF25 had the baseline performance it was supposed to have, none of this would have mattered. The FIA investigation was just a symptom of Ferrari's larger disease. Operational chaos dressed up as bad luck. And Hamilton knew it. That radio message wasn't directed at his engineer. It was directed at the system that had failed him repeatedly since joining the most historic team in Formula One. But Hamilton's frustration with Ferrari was only half the story. Because just days before Brazil, he'd unleashed something far more explosive. A direct attack on Formula One's governing body itself. Still simmering from the controversial Mexican Grand Prix, where he'd been penalized while others escaped punishment for similar incidents, Hamilton delivered one of the most brutal statements of his career. There isn't any clarity, he told reporters in Interlagos. His voice calm, but cutting. Transparency. Accountability. That's what's missing. Too many decisions are made behind closed doors. This wasn't emotional venting. This was calculated criticism from a man who'd watched championships decided by questionable calls, who'd lost Abu Dhabi 2021 to controversial officiating, who'd been penalized in Mexico while Verstappen avoided consequences for identical corner cutting. Hamilton questioned the entire system. The secrecy, the inconsistency, the selective rule enforcement that made drivers guess what counted as fair racing. I don't know if they realize the weight of their decisions, he said. These choices can decide the results of championships. Some work needs to be done there. The timing was devastating. A 7-time world champion, struggling with an underperforming Ferrari, publicly dismantling the FIA's credibility at one of the sport's most iconic venues. The paddock went silent. Other drivers privately echoed his concerns but wouldn't dare say it publicly. Hamilton had become the voice of a frustration that everyone felt but feared to express. The FIA's response? Deafening silence. So where does this lead? Scenario 1. Ferrari listens. They restructure their operations, fix their strategic failures, and give Hamilton the car he deserves. The legend rises one more time, silencing doubters and reclaiming glory in red. Scenario 2. Hamilton's patience runs out. The resignation in his voice becomes permanent. He finishes his Ferrari contract wondering if the move that was supposed to define his legacy actually destroyed it. Scenario 3, the FIA continues hiding behind closed doors. The inconsistency continues. Driver trust erodes further, and Formula One loses credibility because the rules only make sense to the people writing them in secret. Has Hamilton made the biggest mistake of his career by joining Ferrari? Or is the real problem that Formula One's governing body has lost control of its own sport? Can a 7-time world champion survive in a system where both his team and the rulebook seem designed to break him? One thing certain, that radio message in Brazil wasn't just frustration. It was a warning. And when legends stop fighting and start accepting failure, that's when you know something fundamental is broken. The question is, will anyone fix it before it's too late?